Aston Villa 4, West Ham 1. Bit of a humbling performance, truth be known. It was, what can I say? No complaints. Aston Villa were the better team. By far the better team, actually. It wasn't like that all the way through the game. West Ham were in this as a contest certainly for the most part of the first half, and I thought we started okay. Lucas Paquetá in particular was up to his usual tricks and his flicks, or Emerson played well. They were playing really well, linking well down that left-hand side, but obviously Paquetá was given the licence to roam. I think the big question before the start of the game, and even in the build-up to it, look, hey, at Hammers Chat we did a video about whether it would be Mohamed Kudus, whether it be Mikel Antonio that would start. David Moyes went for Antonio, and I got to say, it was awful. I mean, really, really bad. It's not like he did nothing throughout the game. I think there was a decent run and a decent cross in the 70th minute, but put it this way, it was Antonio's passing, Antonio's first touch. It was at his very, very worst. Not that I want to particularly lay all the blame at his door for the defeat. I do think there were a number of things that went into it. We looked tired. Was it just me? I mean, some of you won't have seen the game. I'm going to assume that the majority of you watching this video did. I thought we looked tired. Not at the start of the game, but certainly as it went on, we looked more and more fatigued. And I don't know why that would be more of an issue for West Ham than it was for Villa, because obviously Villa are playing in European competition as well. Maybe they're just fitter than us. I'll tell you what I did notice about Aston Villa, though. Aston Villa were much better drilled than West Ham. I think West Ham can be reasonably well drilled, and certainly from a defensive aspect. Aston Villa seemed well drilled from a defensive point of view, tactically, and in terms of their time wasting as well. But they were also well drilled in terms of their attacks. Everything seemed to be just very, very well trained, and West Ham had no answer. Aston Villa significantly better than West Ham, at least on that show. And maybe we'll see something else later on in the season that disproves that. But David Moyes, let's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. West Ham will be absolutely fine this season. I'm sure we'll do relatively well in the league and we'll get through our group in Europe. But I did say before this game, I thought whoever won this particular encounter would go on and clinch European football this season. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very, very confident that Aston Villa will be that team. I'm not saying we can't, and I'm not saying we won't, but Aston Villa are well ahead of us. And I do think, we'll talk about some of the individual incidents in the game in a second. I do think one of the major differences between the teams was the centre forward. They had Ollie Watkins, who was the best player on the pitch. I'm sorry, I am going to say it. We had Mikel Antonio, who was possibly the worst player on the pitch, and it made a big difference. And to be honest, it was so far gone at the point when Kudus came on, and I'm sort of jumping chronologically through the game here. When Kudus eventually arrived, 63rd minute, something like that, the position he immediately took up was on the left-hand side. He played left wing, which sort of nullified his goal threat. Antonio was still on the pitch. It was Kudus for Souček, which I didn't particularly mind as a substitute because I thought Souček at that point in time was West Ham's second worst player. So I was actually thinking that maybe David Moyes would take Souček and Antonio off. I thought he might even do it at half-time. That's how much the game had slipped from us. But anyway, it wasn't to be in that sense. But it wasn't just... We didn't just lose that because of bad luck. We did absolutely lose to the better team. And there was some concerning moments. I mean, right from their first goal, which was a long shot from Luiz. It did take a little deflection off of a Gerd's heel. So don't overly blame Areola for it. But Watkins, in the build-up to it, was given loads and loads of time and space. Just too much, really. There was a worrying aspect to the game, I've got to say, a really, really something that is concerning, which is a Kurt Zouma's movement. I don't blame him particularly for Villa's third, which was Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins was very, very good, by the way. I don't particularly blame him for that. He was just outclassed. But just little bits in the game and little moments in the game before that, he really does. I used to say he looks like he's running through treacle. It looks like he's running through cement. Now he's struggling to turn as well. It is a concern. When I mention all this talk about Saudi Arabia, I just cannot see how he'd pass a medical anywhere. But make no mistake about it, West Ham, one of West Ham's Achilles' heels today was the lack of mobility from Kurt Zouma, I certainly felt that to be the case. I don't know what you felt. I certainly felt a Gerd next to him had the better game. Again, not something where you'd make some rash decision about Kurt Zouma's future, but I think possibly it might be something we want to look at when we're playing against a really sort of mobile striker. Say mobile stroker there, that's something completely different, isn't it? Like Ollie Watkins. I don't know. I mean, what was really worrying was our lack of quality to impact the game once we'd gone behind. It was a real area of concern, it has to be said. When Lucas Paquetá, well, basically it was his fault. I think their second goal, which was a penalty, was absolutely his fault. He did what he'd been doing so well, which is using his body to shield the ball. And then basically he played a hospital pass to Alvarez, who conceded the penalty. The penalty was very, very expertly dispatched. Again, don't overly blame Areola for it, but you can only carry on saying it. In fact, I don't think Areola had much chance with any of the goals. Funny enough, maybe Watkins' super duper goal, which was Villa's third. You sort of lose count, don't you, really? But overall, I don't overly blame him. Souček was very poor. Antonio was very poor. I thought James Ward-Prowse from open play was pretty damn good, actually. I thought from open play he was one of our better players today. However, when you're a team that relies so much on set plays, and we don't really get any joy from having them, and we had to really wait until the second half to get the best of our set plays. Yet then you're relying on what somebody can do from open play, and we were just crap. We were absolutely awful from open play. Souček was sort of surplus to requirements certainly in the first half, really, because we didn't get any. I don't think we got any corners for quite a long time. You'd have to check the stats. But for at least half an hour it seemed, and even then I think possibly we only got one or two. That seemed like that's what Souček was on the pitch for, just to head it in case we got a corner. Well, you know what, we didn't for the majority of the time when he was on the pitch, and there were times when he was on the ball. Honestly, he's like an old tank. He was in full Steamboat Willie mode. He really was. It was bad. And I just thought we lacked one more creative player in the middle of the park when Aston Villa were on us, and they looked so vibrant and so energetic. Just somebody that could open things up. And we struggled. It's not like we couldn't open them up at all. I felt at the start, there were a series of really good balls from Lucas Paquetá played over the top. You know the sort of thing I mean, that position he takes up where he puts the looping sort of curling left-footed pass and loops it over behind the opposition's defence. On a couple of occasions, he played Antonio throughout. Antonio's, I know I keep labouring the point, Antonio's first touch, Antonio's final pass on 2 or 3 occasions was absolutely abysmal. And when it's that bad, it kills our counter-attack. And realistically, counter-attack was all we had. We did score a goal, of course. And I don't want to take too much away from Jared Bowen, but it was massively fluky. Don't get me wrong, he was shooting at goal, but the shot was from way outside. I don't know, 20 yards, something like that. Ordinarily, a shot that goes from that distance, particularly that, and it wasn't that powerful, it's not going to trouble the goalkeeper. It took a huge deflection, and we scored a goal. Now, don't get me wrong, Bowen, I thought, played really, really well. I thought there were some players that come out from that game with a bit of credit. Bowen would have been one of them. Certainly Ward-Prowse be another one. Emerson, we'll get onto him in a second, I think. And Gerd, I thought, in large parts, Gerd was pretty good. We relied on his pace. I thought he handled Diaby reasonably well. His long-range passing set us off on some good counter-attacks as well. I thought he was the much better defender out of him and Zouma. And do you know what? He almost scored with a sort of bicycle kick. Well, like a volley coming out of the air. Really good volley from him. So, yeah, Jared Bowen probably did deserve his goal because he looked fit, he looked full of energy. But there were just too many people in the team who didn't match that. As I say, Paquetá was for a part in the game, and I think his head just dipped, really, after he was responsible for that goal. And it's a move that works out for him on so many occasions. David Moyes, what can I say about David Moyes? He was outdone and outclassed, actually. Outthought and outclassed, and that's going to give him something to ponder, I think, because there was this wonderful record that David Moyes had against Aston Villa, well, not anymore, and he just I'm not saying it's the master and the apprentice, far from it. Unai Emery is a manager with really good experience, a good European pedigree. But he was done. He was absolutely done. And he had no answer in terms of the substitutions. He had none. And I don't know about you, it felt the Danny Ings one, I think it might have been 85 minutes or something like that. That was giving up. That's what that was. That was, I give up. I felt that from Moyes, but we'll live and we'll fight another day. And I do think the way we play will cause a lot of teams problems. We'll deal with the centre-forward bit another time because it's another video. But it's a problem. It is an absolute problem. And I think from my own point of view, what I found most disappointing was I would have liked to see Kudus come on earlier. Okay, he didn't. But you still like to think at the point when he comes on, and I think it was 2-1. I might be wrong. I think it was 2-1 when he came on. I think Bowen had scored his goal by then. At 2-1, you're still in the game. And I think I would have liked to have thought he could be put in a position where he can really hurt them. He wasn't. He was put out on the left, and I don't want to see it. I never want to see him on the left, but not when we're chasing a game like that. Funny enough, he did have a really good run and had a good dribble and had a decent enough shot, but it was 93rd minute, something like that. The game was done. The game was wrapped up by them. And I think it's sort of, as I said, I don't know of any complaints. No complaints about the referee, who I thought was all right, to be honest with you. I thought actually he let us off on some yellow cards. Emerson got one, bit foolish. He played well, Emerson, but it was a silly yellow card. He misses the next game. It's going to be interesting because he's such a pivotal player for us now. I thought the referee, so no complaints. I think the best team won. However, I do think it's a little bit gutting when the teams are so close. Going into this game, we were close. There were 2 points in it, and whoever won was knocking. I mean, I think Villa have probably gone into the top 4 now, but I think had we have won, we'd have been possibly, knocking right on the door. We've been in 5th place. We're knocking right on the door of Champions League. So to go into the game with us both being so close, and you think we're like that, and actually to find out Villa are sort of that far ahead of us, and it's just one game, I know, was, I don't know, a little bit gutting, really. In many respects, I'm sort of, I'd love to have won that game, but I was sort of cringing every time I heard the statistic that West Ham have only lost to Liverpool and Manchester City this season. I don't think it's totally reflective, because it gives the impression that West Ham are only beaten by the very, very best teams, and I'm not sure that's the case. Aston Villa aren't the very best teams, but they're just below them. I do think they might give Newcastle a run for their money. Very well managed, very well organised, very good transfer strategy. Lot to admire there, and they are definitely ahead of West Ham at the moment. And what we can't do is keep delaying everything we do, be it a substitution or be it buying that player that will make the difference. A centre forward has got to be the key player in your team, and it was the difference between the two teams today. I really do firmly believe that. Look, Luiz was good in central midfield, but so was Paqueta for parts of that game. But Ward-Prowse was good. Alvarez, maybe didn't have his best game, but, I do think he was played into trouble by Paqueta. I just think we had such good early momentum with us in that game. If we'd have had a really good centre-forward on, I just think we'd have, we probably would have scored early. Game might have taken a different turn. Not saying we would have won necessarily, but I think we'd have got a draw against them. We just can't keep delaying this stuff. I think, overall, what can you say? It was a lot of players. We'll be doing our player ratings tomorrow over on Patreon, and there's going to be a lot of players getting a very, very low score. If you want to get involved with Patreon, by the way, links in the description below. It's patreon.com/HammersChat. We're doing a free 7-day trial on it, so you can take a look at that. It's going to be interesting. We have Anton Ferdinand as a regular podcast with Hammers Chat. It's going to be interesting to see what Anton thinks, sort of, in the coming days, see what he thinks about that. Because like the rest of us, we thought it was going to be close. We all, myself, Gio, Anton, Charlie, we all said 1-1.